Yes, you can start.
Hello, good morning all. Today we are going to present a React Query library. It is a very useful query to fetch the data from the backend and help to maintain the global state. It is open source library and created by Tanner Lansley. So let's start with with why we are here and what was the problem or issue before we are facing the React Query. So one of the challenge we are facing when building the application with React Query is determining a code pattern for fetching data from the server. We store all server side data in the global state. We use different library for a global state management like Redux, user state, reducer, plus context, MobiX, and many more. We fix server state with the client state and properly handle a global state. So this is the one of the issue we are facing before the React query. So let's move toward the next point. Before the React query, we have to manually update the data in the background. So because of this, likely some property has changed or data has focus. So this is also the big issue. The next point is next point is we have to timely update the data in the background and figure uh, out the outdated data. The next point is the before React query, the reflecting update to data is quick as responsible. So before React query, we have to show update data in the UI with the help of the third-party libraries. As we know, we have a various third-party library. We need to find out how to use it, and this is also the issue. The next point is performing optimization like pagination and lazy loading data. For example, the performance optimization is very essential in the web application, right? And we have to write a lot of code for performance optimization for the web application. The writing of code and increase the complexity, it is also the issue. There are many issues before the React query. We can come this using the example. So let's start with the why React query, why we are choose the React query. So the React query is the collection of the hook for fetching, catching, updating, or synchronizing data in the React with the zero configuration. It fetches the data in the background, so it always synchronizes with the server data. It provides a different state like a fetching data, error state, and data. It made a managing server state on the React application, and it is easy and the fun loving. So start with the next point. We don't need to do any configuration, and you can fetch update data by using webhook. The webhook is the one of the tool which we are using in the React query. The next point is we have to write a pattern of code to fetch, update, maintain several state like updating, fetching data state in the application. But when we are using a React query, it helps to remove many lines of code and provide all state in the single object. We will show this in the example how to use it. So let's move toward the next point. The Now we don't need to take care of the server set and it provide all the data with a single object. So it is very easy to maintain and build our application using a React query. The one of the useful case for the React query is cache management. The React query maintain all the fetch data in the cache and default cache time in within the 5 minutes. If the query data become unused or inactive, that cache data will garbage collection after this duration. You can change the cache time by using cache time option, which is used in the React query. And if you set it infinity, then it will disable garbage collection. So these are the benefit of the React query. So let's move toward the Anuj.
Okay, thanks, Subhanda. Okay, so Subhanda has explained the feature of React query Now we will check with the help of example. So I have created also the repo for this. So okay, so if you see with in this example, so without React query, if we want to fetch the data from the backend, then we have to maintain a different state, like is loading, is error, data, and with use effect we have to fetch the data on time, and we have to maintain the state, like if the data has some backend has some error, then we have to throw the error and maintain the states. So it's we have to do it manually. Okay, and on the basis of that state we have to show the data. Now with the help of React query provide all the state in a single object. Okay, so this is the syntax how we have to call this. Use query is the hook which is provided by React query, and the key repo, like a repo data which we have provided, it should be the string. And so with the help of this, then it maintain the cache, and also means give us the data on time. And the second one is the function which help us to fetch the data from the backend, and on the basis of that it provide all the state in a single object, and we will show the values on the UI. Okay, so now we will take a example with the help of example. Okay, so I'm using the code editor, online code editor, code sandbox for this. And so this is the first example. We will I have created around 5 to 6 example, and we will take one by one, and what are the different features of React query. Okay, so if you see here, I have created I'm using the use query, and this is the fetch user. Fetch user is the function which helps us to fetch the data from the backend, and these are the state which is provided by query: is loading, is error, data, and error value. Okay, so suppose if some error has come from the backend, then we will show the error message, and any other thing whatever you would like to do it. And suppose is loading, you will show the some loading state, and otherwise you will show the data to the user. Okay, so suppose if you refresh the page, then it's showing the loading because it's very fast. We will see it. I'm just changing the time so that we will see it. So if I refresh the page, okay, it's loading state and then display the data to the user. Okay, and if you see here in the bottom, there is one icon. It is a React query dev tool. So React query dev tool has created one dev tool library which help us to provide all the details about the queries. So like our first query is repo data, so because it's a key which we have provided. So if you click here, then React query provide all the details about the data. So it provides the data and the state management. So all the states here, these are the states, like is fetching, false, and initial data is invalid data, data is status is success, and all things. Okay, and this is very useful when we use in our application, because if we would like to see either a data is come from the backend or not. And these are the state of fresh if the data is fresh, and fetching if the data is fetching from the backend, and stale is data is outdated. So by default the stale time is 0. So whenever you fetch the data, then by default the data is stale, and you can change it you can change it with the help of property which is provided by the query, React query. And the inactive state, if the data or query is in the inactive, okay, after 5 minutes the query is inactive, so that and it will be garbage collected. So you can change the time also for that also. Okay, and next one, how you can configure the dev tool. So just use this React query dev tool from the React query dev tool, and just use in the topmost area, topmost component. Okay, and here this is very simple example which I have shown you. Now we will take a look of different examples. Okay, so next one is by default the React queries fetch the data when the mouse is on focus, on window focus. Okay, refetch every time when the, just wait a minute actually. Okay, so it's not loading. I just need to refresh the page. Sometime actually I'm using the online editor, sometime the error will come. Yeah, so it will do it. Okay, now it fetch the data, and now if you again if you focus on again, then again it fetch the data. It's loading a lot of data. Now if you see here, when I focus again, then it again fetch the data, again fetch the data for the same query. Whenever we mouse and refetch on window focus. Okay, so we can disable this. Okay, so there is a one properties of the React query, how we will give it. False. Okay. So if you set the false, then it will not fetch the data on every page on the mouse focus. Okay, and second one is the stale time. So by default, stale time is 0. So suppose if you would like to do it, you can change the stale time to 200. Okay, so when the data is fresh for 2 seconds and it's a millisecond, the time is in the millisecond, you can give it to, suppose if you set to infinity, then the data is always fresh, so it will not steal the data. This is very important. Suppose you are fetching some metadata that will be not changed for all your application, so you can change the stale time to infinity, because all the time it will not fetch the data from the backend. Okay, moving on to the next. Okay, so fetch data on user search or state change. So suppose user is searching something on the UI and you have to fetch the data from the backend, then we will take a look how we can do this. I have just read the code because we have very less time, so that I will just show you how we can do this. Okay, so here I have again making the call from the to the backend, and actually it's a token which I have to use it here to fetch the data from the backend. And this is search user, like search text, whatever the user is typing, we are just passing to the query, and I'm using the Git API for that. Okay, and how we are passing the data to the query. So this is the again the key, and this is the text whatever we are passing, and we are passing in the array format. Okay, so suppose if search for Anuj, then it loads the data, and so all the data related to Anuj. And if you see here, now the what is the key name is search text, whatever we have passed, and the text whatever we are sending as a parameter to the API. So it makes combination of both the two make as a single key for that. Okay, so suppose if I search for ABC user, then it fetch the details of the ABC, and the key is search text. This is hard coded text, and the ABC is the user has searched for that. And if you would like to pass if you would like to pass multiple values, so you can pass as a object. Okay, so like search text, and in the object you can use as a search object. So search object has come here, so you can just use it here and search for data like that. Okay, so all the details has come for related to Anuj. And if you see here, the what is the final query? Search text Anuj, and as a object also the key. So it makes all the combination of this as a key. Cool. So now move on to the next part. Okay, dependent query. Dependent query means suppose the first query result is dependent on the second one. Okay, so suppose means we have fetched some data from the backend of user, all the details of user, and we will show the first user detail to the user. Okay, so first query data, whatever the come, then it will pass to the second user. So how we will do this? Again, same. I just remove this. I just want to show you this thing. We don't use this one. And this is the search user. Now, okay. So if you see here, whatever data is come in the first query, then we will pass to the second query. This is my second query, use query, secondary query, and this is the key. Just you can pass anyone, and this is a value from the first query. Like I'm passing the second user, and this is the very good thing is enabled. So what is the role of enable property is it helps to disable the query from automatically running. So if you suppose set as false, then this query will not run. This query will not run because you have set the value to false. Okay, if you set to true, then it will fetch the data, and if you set to false, like we are passing as a login user. Okay, second value login user. So by default it's undefined because there is no user detail. And suppose if I search for Anuj, then it fetch the data of second user Anuj B, and then fetch the data of, and so display to the user second data. So the first query data is dependent on the second one. How we can do this? So we can do this with the help of enabled flag. Okay, so now moving on to the next part, query side effect. Query side effect means this is very good important. Suppose you want to show some error on the basis of the result. Suppose if the backend has some error, and then you want to throw some or alert show to the user, then in that state how you can do this, or some successful message you want to show it, and either successful or either failed, you want to show message to the user or want to run some code. So how we can do this? I think we are on time, right, Subhadra?
Yeah.
Okay. This is also very easy. The React query make a life easy for the developer. And if you see here is loading data, and again the data. Okay, these are the state. Enable text is means whenever the user searches, then we will fetch the from the backend. And on success, on error, and on settled. These are the three functions which is provided by React query. We will take a look after this. Okay, so if you search here, we will actually I'm just logging in the console. Suppose I search Anuj again. So it fetch all the details and successfully fetch data. So on success, I'm just logging the information, and on settle is always run either the query send the true or false, like either throw error or on successful, it will always run. So called after this. And if suppose if you would like to throw some error, we will throw it manually. So error. Okay. So now search for Ubuntu. Then if you see here, error in fetching data, and this one, error in fetching data, and the call after every call. So it will run every time, and on error is called, and on successful is not called. So this is very things like how we are using in our application. Suppose if the backend has some successful data, we will show an alert to the user, your code is successfully submitted, and fetch the data. And if there's some error has come, then we will show the alert there is some issue with the backend, and we, like this, you can run on it. Okay. And on settle, how we are using it. Suppose we are showing some model, okay, and on successful you would like to you want to disable that model, so you can do it here on settle. And there are a lot of use cases you can use in your application. Okay, so next one is the use mutation. Till now we have just see the use query, whatever the fetch the data, but use mutation is used for create, update, and delete the data. Okay, so suppose if you would like to submit some form data or want to update some data and delete some data. Okay, so React Query has provided the use mutation. Before that, I would also show you one more feature is refetch interval. So refetch interval is, so suppose if you would like to fetch the query after some interval. So suppose you are showing some information to user and you want to fetch that information after 5 minutes, after 5 seconds, whatever you set here. So it will refetch the same data on that time, whatever you want to give it here. Like we are using in our application for the we are showing the data in the table format, and after 15 minutes we are just refresh the data. So we are using this one, refetch interval. Cool. So now we are seeing the use mutation, how we will use it. They are also very simple. Actually, I don't have any post query dummy data, so for that I just used the yeah. Okay, so here I'm just using the dummy data. So there are 4 tasks. Okay, I already added, and in the post data, I'm just pushing the data and return to the query. Okay, because I don't have any backend API for that, so I'm using this fake the post call. Okay, so here what we are using is just getting the data and posting. Use mutation is helps to post the data or update the data or create the data. Okay, so how we will use is use mutation is the hook, and the post data. Post data is means whatever API you would like to, and these are the properties whatever you would like to add, like on settle, on successful. Here I'm just resetting the value, whatever task, whatever value we will add it. Or on successful, I'm just logging the information in the console, and query dot cache dot invalid queries. Invalid query help us to refresh the data. Okay, and there is another hook they are also providing, refetch it. There is one more function is refetch, so you can also use the refetch here with the same task. Okay, now if I add task 5, so it add the data as a task 5, and this console is printed, and it also fetch the data from the backend, because refetch is again refetch the same query, get task query. Okay, very simple. And how we will call this, like on submit task, this is the function which is provided by the use mutation, and the text or the object whatever you would like to pass it here, and it pass to the function new task, and then you can perform your operation, and again you can refresh the data. from here. Okay, so there are two ways to invalidate the query or refetch the data. First one is the refetch function, and the second one is invalidate the query. So suppose if you would like to uh, uh, fetch the data of some queries, okay, so you can just invalidate query. Then when you set the invalidate query, then React query will automatically refetch the data. Okay, so this is the key what you have to pass, which query or which key you want to refetch it here. So there are two things you can do it. Okay, so now move on to the next part is paginate query. Paginated query means the page one query or page two data, page three data, like this. How we will do this? This is also very simple. Again, fetch the data and so by default, I'm just paging info, fetch the data of first page number. Okay, so here the React query has provided one hook again is use paginated query, and this is the key name and this is a page number, and the fetch users means this is a API which we have to fetch it. And here I'm just created two buttons which increase the page number so that we will fetch the first number, second number, like this. And if you see here, the get name is 3 second 1, and if you go back it here, then it will fetch the data, and it will give us from the cache data because we have already the page number 1 data and page number 2 data, and in the backend it will also refetch the same data. Okay, if you see here, it's very fast because they have already provided us the same data. And if you go next one, then it will fetch the from the backend and display it. Okay, so this is the way which we are using it here. Very simple things they have provided in the fetch and provide us all the objects so that we can use it here. And next one is here, it's very important. Like we have seen, there are a lot of property which we have to set here. And suppose if you would like to set some property which will apply to all the queries, so you can do this. React query has provided us one. Okay, so React query provider one providers, React query config providers. So you can set that as a global level, root level. Okay, so how we can do this? So here what we are doing it here is, okay, so if you would like to set some configuration at the global level, then React query provide one provider. So we can set the value there, it will apply to all the queries. We can also override that. So suppose if you would like to set some query at the global level, so like this is object and this is the queries, retry is false. So retry means if the query fails, then React query by default fetch 3 times. Okay, then we can set to false, so it will not refetch again and again. And refetch on window focus, what I have explained you. So you can also disable this, or suppose if you want to set the stale time, you can also set it to infinity. Okay, so always this is infinity for all the APIs. So you can also change it here. Okay, so if you see here, then this data is always fresh for all the data. But if you would like to change it here, and then if you would like to change for a specific query, you can just apply that change in your specific query. Like if you would like to change it here for this specific query, so you can just tail time is like 2 seconds. Then this state time will change for this query, and for all the other query it will be infinity. So this is also very important. There's something which we have to set at the global level, so that we don't want to change for all the application, for all the APIs. So we can do like this. There are a lot of things which actually, due to time constraint, I'm not able to cover it, but there is very good documentation by the React query. So you can also take a look of this. And now the React query version 3 has also come 2 days before. So you can also take a look. There are a lot of changes is made by the React query in v3. So, and there's something is deprecated. So you need to take in the documentation. So that's it from my side. And yeah, thanks.